Welcome to the Mindset Architect Podcast, where it's all about creating the life you want, the business you want, and making a real difference. Join us in unlocking the code to true success. And now your host, Tony Caliendo, Master Coach with reTHINK Coaching.
Hi there, and welcome to reTHINK Coaching's podcast episode number 1. We're so excited to have you with us and just appreciate you being here. We promise for every podcast episode that we deliver, we will deliver high quality, high content material that you can implement and use in your business and your life immediately and start to experience different results. Today we were going to spend some time explaining who we were and a little bit about us. And we decided a better use of our time and your time would be to actually go ahead and introduce the tool to you that you can implement today, because you came here to learn something, right? Not just to learn how fabulous we are, but you came here to learn a resource or a tool to help you move forward in your life or your business. So we want to honor that and start with that today. And so I can't think of a better tool or resource that we begin with as we begin this partnership with you to introduce you to than one model that we discovered about 10 years ago, maybe a little longer than that. That really was the model that changed our lives and our business. And it also has been a model that we have leaned into that has made a tremendous impact for all of our clients that we coach in our private coaching practice and in our group coaching programs. So without further ado, I want to talk to you today about the model. And I want to promise you, if you stick with me and you listen to and just let this digest, I'm going to go over it a couple of times, let it digest. You're going to walk away with a powerful resource that will make an impact for you in your business and your life. And the model, I wish I could say it was something we created. It's not. It's just the model of how the world works. Yet it's a powerful model that when you really analyze it and use it strategically, it's what allows for the greatest breakthroughs for our clients in their business and their personal life. So let's talk about the model. All right. And the model really is, again, just really how the world works. And again, it's going to be something that makes a significant difference. So the premise of the model, basically what it is something happens, right? An event, a circumstance, an experience, something happens that's out of your control. All right. So you don't have control over people. You don't have control over your past. You don't have control over every circumstance or situation that you get put into or that you experience. So something happens outside of your control. And that is what triggers the rest of the model. So the rest of the model is a reaction to what you experience that was out of your control. That experience generates a thought, okay? And then that thought generates a feeling. It produces a feeling that you have. That feeling impacts and generates actions that you take or don't take. And then those actions cause a result or a lack of result. So that's really the model simplified, okay? And here's what I want you to consider. The only thing in this entire model that we cannot control is the circumstance that created the thought. That's it. It's an external thing that we do not have control over. The rest of the model and how we flow with it through our thoughts, feelings, actions, and results, we are 100% in control of and can decide how we want it to play out. I think that's the most exciting thing for us, is that having the realization that you do have control. So if you're looking for a new approach to living a life and running a business by intention versus by default, this is really a great foundational tool. It's also important for you to understand this tool because we'll reference it in future podcasts and future teachings. And so I just want you to be familiar with it. We'll go over it again several times and you're going to hear it several times. And I promise you, just trust the process and you will understand why this is so important. So I want you to think about something. Most of us set a goal, whether it's business or life. And if you're like many of our clients, you've set a goal year after year, and sometimes you just don't hit the goal. You get stuck or you feel frustrated. You get close to goal, but you never quite make it. And that is a very common experience, right? And when you use this model and you start with what you have control over, thoughts, feelings, emotions, actions, and results, when you start focusing on what you have control over, you will suddenly become unstuck, which is so crazy that it could be that simple, right? And so often being stuck is really just being related to the feelings which, are generated by the thoughts. It's a feeling or an emotion. So I want to drill down on this just a little bit further. Let me start by asking you this question. Do you believe you have control over your thoughts? Have you ever given much consideration to your thoughts? And have you ever considered that you can actually control or drive those thoughts? Or are you like most people who just kind of think it's just how it is, right? It's just the thought that you have that gets generated and that you don't have control over it. And that's just the rhythm of life. And the truth of the matter is, if you sit with your thoughts, you can quickly identify, is this a positive or a negative thought? Is this a thought that is serving me, or is this a thought that is harming me or stalling me in my journey to live a life and have a business by intention? So what's so important about controlling our thoughts? Let me share something with you that when I learned this, it kind of blew my hair back. I was like, gosh, I struggled believing it, and I'm going to help you through it because you too may struggle believing this is true. On average, so that means it can be more, it can be less. The average person has 60,000 thoughts a day. 60,000 thoughts a day. This is where I got a little bit in my head. I was like, there's no way in a 24-hour time period I could experience 60,000 thoughts. And then my coach at the time said, I'm going to show you how it's possible that you could have 60 or more thousand thoughts a day. So I'm going to ask you to do something. If you're saying, hey, I really want some proof of this, I'm just going to ask you to do something. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to pause this podcast. I'm going to ask you to pause and do something for 30 seconds that will help you understand how it's possible to have at least 60,000 thoughts. What I'm going to ask you to do is set a timer on your watch or your phone or your computer or whatever it is you got to do. And I want you to set a timer for 30 seconds. And the only instruction that you're going to have during that 30-second time period is to not have a thought, to be completely void of all thought and just sit in the darkness and the stillness of your mind. And I want you to do that for 30 seconds. So if you're looking for a little evidence to the number of thoughts that you might be having each day, please hit the pause, set your timer for 30 seconds, and don't think. And when that's over, just hit resume, and we're going to pick back up. So go ahead, hit the pause button. Okay, so welcome back. For those of you who took the 30 seconds to just explore what it's like to not have thoughts, I want to share with you, when we do this with clients, it's overwhelming responses. Oh my God, I kept thinking that I'm not supposed to be thinking. I kept having these thoughts, and I told myself to stop thinking for the next 30 seconds and don't have any thoughts, but I couldn't. I want to say, welcome to your unconscious mind. That is running 24/7 in the background. So when we say the average person has 60,000 thoughts a day, it's a combination between your conscious thoughts and your unconscious thoughts. And all of our thoughts are really generated on an unconscious level and pulled forward and made conscious. So now that you see that it's possible to have at least 60,000 thoughts, I want you to think about something else. Out of the 60,000 thoughts that we have a day, an overwhelming percentage of those are typically negative. Statistically, 80%. So if we did some quick math, 80% of 60,000 thoughts is 48,000. So in the quiet of your mind, which we've now demonstrated isn't quiet, all those thoughts that are constantly running, imagine if you were having 48,000 negative thoughts. So think about having a parrot on your shoulder that is chirping 48,000 negative things at you. You're not any good. You can't do this. What makes you think you can do this? They meant this when they said that. You're having exposure to 48,000 negative thoughts a day. And here's the kicker: 95% of our thoughts are repetitive from previous days, from previous weeks, from just in general, they're just repetitive thoughts. 95%. So, can you see why maybe when you're stuck and we do not address what's happening with our thoughts, and if we do nothing to clean up our thoughts, how we're going to get stuck in a rinse and repeat cycle, because our thoughts are driving our results. Remember, the model is something happens, it triggers and produces a thought, which produces a feeling, which generates an action that we take or don't take, and then that creates or causes the results that we're receiving or we're not receiving. So I want you to see the importance of why we want to address our thoughts. And if we're really honest about it, we're after an experience of a feeling or an emotion is really what we're after doing. So, when we set a goal, right? How many of us, when we set our annual goal or quarterly goal or a life goal, get incredibly excited about the feeling you have when you believe that you can achieve the goal? I mean, it's a pretty awesome feeling, right? And that's really what we're chasing in life, really, is more the feeling and emotion. And that is driven by what? It's driven by the thoughts you have. The thoughts you have a direct impact on your feelings and emotions, which then are going to trickle down and affect actions and results. So I just really want you to sit with this for a minute and think about this. This is how you can crack the code on living a life and having a business that you intend to have and that you want to experience, and to live in a place of emotion that is feel good versus feel not so good. It's possible. So here I am sharing this great news, that you're going to have 60,000 thoughts a day. And by gosh, 48,000 are going to be crappy negative thoughts. And oh, by the way, 95% are going to repeat. Now, good luck, go work the model. That is not what I want to do with you today. I really do want to honor what we can do to change our thoughts and to experience the emotion that we really would like to experience in life. So, couple things. There's a couple ways that we can reprogram our thoughts and turn them into more positive. I want to be the first one to say today that I don't have a magic wand. I don't have fairy dust. I don't have a pill you can take that's going to change and have you never have a negative thought, which then creates a negative or less than desirable emotion. That's not possible, because let's be honest, in life, we're dealt with some stuff, right? I think about death or sickness. That's a circumstance that we can't control, and we cannot have happy thoughts necessarily, unless you really hated the person. You're not going to necessarily have a happy thought about that, and that's going to impact the way you feel. So I do not have, nor would it be healthy for us to only have positive thoughts and happy emotions, because if we only had that, we wouldn't know, that gap between, the joy and the sorrow, that wouldn't be there, because we would only have happy. So it's important to honor that we're going to have negative thoughts, that we're going to have some negative emotions, and that's okay. It's really okay. And grief is probably the one emotion that I can think of that, is driven by something negative. Somebody dies. Usually that's not a positive experience. So I want to give you a real life example, and then I want to talk about a model. Actually, first, I'm going to talk about a model on how you can dispel this. When you're having a negative thought, it's caused by a circumstance. So sometimes we just want to sit with that and say, okay, what triggered the thought? And, it could be a circumstance out of our control. A client cancels a contract. A friend or a loved one does something that impacts you tremendously. They deceive you, they betray you, they lie to you. It can be a lot of things. Your kids, somebody important in your life does something. Remember, we don't have control over it. That has a potentially negative connotation, which then drives a negative thought. And one of the quickest ways to shift a thought, and this is another brilliant model, is to just ask yourself four really basic questions. When you have the thought that you don't desire to have, I just want you to ask yourself, because the thought really is a story that we've created, right? A thought's really our way of us telling ourselves a story to create a thought. And so if you've got a story running, the best way to create a thought defect or a thought default and acknowledge that that's not really the thought is to ask yourself a question. Is the thought true? Is the story I've created or the thought, is it true? And in the moment, right, when the event happens and you trigger that thought, you might think, heck yes, it's true. But I really want you to sit with this and ask yourself the next question. Is it really 100% true? Is that story that you've created, that thought, is it 100% true? And here's what we know. There's really nothing that's 100% true. And all we're looking to do to get you to acknowledge that it's not 100% true is that there is another choice. There's another alternative story for you to live into. So is it true? Is it 100% true? And here's where some of the magic happens. Sit with it and say, okay, so if I believe it is true, how do I show up? What's the impact when I hold on to that thought or that story that it's true? How do I show up in life? How do I show up in my business? And sit with that. It normally or typically does not feel great because you're holding on to a negative thought or to a negative story. But remember that second question, is it 100% true? And when we realize it's not 100% true and we're creating the space for a different story, I want you to now ask yourself, who could I be when I let go of the negative thought and realize that it doesn't have to be that way? Who could I be? And that's typically when we feel a shift in our energy and we have the ability to think differently or redraft our story in a positive way. So you're changing that thought. And now, once you've done that and you can feel good and you can feel the possibility, now you've changed your thought to something positive. So, guess what's next? Feelings and emotions are going to be more positive, healthy, better for you, which are going to impact the actions you take and going to impact the result. Because let's be honest, when we get excited that there's a different way, when we get excited that the story we were holding on to really isn't true, you've cracked open, actually, you've kicked open the door of possibility. And you get to choose now what that future is going to look like. So that model combined with the original model, something happens, thought, feeling, actions, result, is a way that we can retrain the brain to have less than 48,000 negative thoughts, to start creating the infrastructure of positive thoughts, which are going to impact your emotions and feelings, which ultimately are going to impact the results that you receive. So I want to give you a real life example. One of our coaching clients decided that they wanted to just be healthier. They weren't 20 anymore and they weren't 60. They were in between, and they just said, I'm at a stage of my life where I want to take a stand for my health. I don't want to be a bodybuilder. I'm not going to be, competitive, but I want flexibility. I want to be fluid. I want to, put healthier things in my body. So they set a goal and an intention of becoming healthier. And they put together an action plan. Okay. And that action plan involved going to the gym 3 days a week and walking 5 days a week. That was really how they felt that they could get into the physical shape that they wanted. And it also involved, better nutrition and whatnot. So week after week, when we were meeting with this client, They were not going to the gym. They were not taking their walks. So think about it. We're in the action phase of the model. Something happens, thought, feeling, action, results. They were not going to the gym. Now, not going to the gym is going to trickle down and affect the results, right? And so we brought it to their attention, hey, you made this commitment that you were going to go to the gym and you were going to do walks X amount of days a week, and you're not doing it. Can we talk about it? Now, here's what most people do. They want to fix the action. They want to, okay, oh my God, yeah, you're right. I'm going to hold myself accountable. I'm going to, hire a trainer. I'm going to go to the gym. They want to get into the action phase of it because they think that's what's going to fix it. But here's what I know. And now here's what you know. It's not the action that's going to fix it or have a long-term impact if you don't address the feelings and the thoughts that you're having that are driving the actions that you're taking or not taking. So it's real common when you're not achieving a goal to get real action focused and ignore what's really driving the bus. What's really driving the bus are our thoughts and our feelings. So with this client, we said, stop. We know, like most of you know, exactly what you should be doing to get to your goal. We know what you should be doing, and you do too. Yet most of us aren't doing it. So rather than just piling on, do more, I'm going to hold you accountable, some punitive things, that's not going to work or last very long. What are the feelings you're having about this? So in this case, we asked the client, when you choose to not go to the gym or choose to not go on your walk, what feeling are you experiencing before you don't take that action, right? Before you make the decision or take the action of inactivity versus the action of activity. And this is where we started to peel it back and get to the emotion, right? The feelings. And their answer was that they really felt indifferent and they felt frustrated. That's the feeling and emotion that they were experiencing. And so imagine feeling indifferent or frustrated with the thought of going to the gym or the action that you committed to. Are you likely to do it? No. Okay. And that's exactly what was happening. Now, I can't just change the feeling because what drives the feeling? The thought. And when we asked this client, tell us the thought process that you're having that's creating that feeling of frustration and indifference in creating the inactivity of going to the gym. And it was fascinating. They had a very clear moment where they said, the thought I'm having is I've gone to the gym before and I've done some form of cardio before and it didn't work. And that thought right there was what caused the emotion and the feeling of indifference and frustration, which then generated or caused the inaction, which then caused the result, which was them not getting into shape. That is probably the easiest real life example I can give you about the impact, right? If you're not taking action, resist the temptation to just jump in and, I'm going to do more action. Go back to the thought, because until we could change the thought, we're not changing anything. So we sat with that thought and we just said, is it true? Is it 100% true? Who are you with it? Who are you without it? And the realization that they had was that thought really isn't true. There's enough evidence in the world that people who go to the gym and do cardio each week actually move towards a healthier life. And that activity is going to give them that result. So once we cleared that up and cleared up that thought, we then, how are you feeling? Well, I'm feeling hopeful. I'm actually kind of excited to go to the gym. I'm excited to do my walks, knowing that there's proof that this works. So we changed the thought and we changed the feeling and the emotion, which ultimately is going to impact the actions. Now, in this case, we sat with the actions a little bit once we cleared up the thought and the feeling or the emotion. And the client realized that, hey, I do need some accountability. And maybe it's not going to the gym that's the problem. Maybe it's going to the gym and not knowing what to really do. So they hired a personal trainer. I mean, it's a coach, right? A personal trainer is just a coach. And If you want to make a change in an area of your life, coach is usually the direction to go. So that example, once we unlock that thought and once we reframe that thought to realize that it wasn't true, and we created this space of excitement and actually looking forward to the journey of going to the gym and their cardio, everything changed. From that point forward, that client experienced the results that they were looking for on a more regular basis. Now, was it 100%? Nothing is 100% nothing. I wish it was. I wish it was a one and done, but it's not, because see, here's what's fascinating about your brain. It produced that story, that thought about it not being, I was indifferent and frustrated because it's never worked in the past, right? Your brain is going to strive for comfort and not change. So we work through it and we get through it. Your brain may go, let me create another story. And you may find yourself again being stuck or not taking the action, and resist the temptation to just focus on the action. Go back to, okay, what feeling do I have right now? What is the thought that created that feeling? And you may discover that your brain, which is an incredible part of your body, has just generated another thought that might be negative and not serving you well. So this is how everything works in life. Something happens, creates thought, generates feeling, causes an action or inaction, and then ultimately creates a result or not a result. So I want you to think about it. The model always flows in that direction. However, we can work it backward, from the middle back, from the end back, to really help uncover what's going on. Because logically, if you're stuck or you're not meeting your goals, so if I'm frustrated with my results, okay, so remember, something happens, thought, feeling, action, result. If I'm frustrated and I'm not getting the results that I intended to get, I simply go back and say, okay, what actions am I taking or not taking? And I identify that, okay, I'm not going to the gym. I'm not calling my past clients. I'm not getting out and networking. I'm not journaling. I'm not meditating. I'm not praying. It can be all the actions that we're not doing. Again, resist the temptation to say, well, that's just what I'm going to do. That's the answer. I'm just going to start doing all of that stuff. Stay with the model. Okay, what feeling or emotion did I have that generated my taking or not taking action? And then go back to the thought. It's really that simple and yet that powerful. So I want to leave you with this. We can change that nasty little formula, right, of 60,000 thoughts a day, 80% being negative, 95% repetitive. We can change that. Probably still going to have 60,000 thoughts. You might have more now because I've introduced you to a whole new way of thinking, but we can certainly alter if I'm going to have 80% of my thoughts being negative by doing some exercises to create a better thought pattern. Okay. And so doing that kind of pattern interrupt through thoughts, leaning into what am I feeling? What am I doing? What am I receiving? And paying attention to the thought. You can change it. You can. I introduced you to a quick model. Is it true? Is it 100% true? Right? Who am I with? Who am I without that thought? And what's my way forward? And then I also want to introduce you to something else to consider. And this is the last thing we're going to talk about today, because I've thrown quite a bit at you, yet this is foundational if you're truly serious about changing your life and your business and your life, whichever order you want to do it in. Here's what I know. If you change your business, your life's going to change. If you change your life, your business is going to change. How you do one thing is how you do everything. So I want to introduce you to a concept. We're chasing a feeling, okay? And the feeling is generating our actions and our results. I know our thoughts are, but really our feeling is. I mean, think about it. If I said, I'm going to give you $1 million, you immediately emote a feeling, right? And that feeling creates what we want to feel, what we're chasing, all right? Now, here's the fascinating part. I haven't given you the check for $1 million yet. I haven't Venmo'd, Zelled, transferred the money into your account, yet you're experiencing the feeling as if it was already done. So I'm going to invite you to think about this. Thoughts are super important, right? It's the driver of the bus. It's sitting behind the wheel, driving the result bus. But what's really driving us in a way is our emotion, what we want to feel in life and business. So, what if you sat for a moment and selected an emotion or a feeling that you would like to experience on the regular? Peace, joy, happiness, worry free, whatever that emotion is for you. What if you made a decision today that that was the space that you were going to conduct your business in and your life? Would that feel good? Yeah, it does. I mean, if we're honest, right, we're driven by emotion. And so if you pick that emotion, what should you do to create that emotion more regularly? What comes before feelings in the model? Thoughts. What thoughts can I have that will generate that feeling? So let's just say peace was what you wanted to experience. What thought could you have around peace? I live an amazing, peaceful life. I'm in the perfect place at the perfect time for my peaceful life. Start creating thoughts that support the emotion that you would like to experience on the regular. And that is a way and a trick that we can reprogram our thoughts to experience more positive than negative. Again, I just want to remind you, we're not in control of what happens. We're not in control of the person, the event, the circumstance. We're not in control of that. We are 100% in control of our thoughts, feelings, actions, and results. 100%. The other thing I want to remind you of is sadly, I cannot, as much as I would love to, wave a wand over you and have you never have a negative thought again or a negative emotion or feeling. That's just not how life is. Stuff's going to happen. Bad things are going to happen. And they're going to create you not feeling so great or not having necessarily a negative thought. And again, the example I give on that one is a pretty extreme one, but it's death and grief, right? I'm not typically joyous during that time. I'm not necessarily at peace during that time or happy or worry free. It's an event that evokes a negative emotion. And it's okay because remember, to experience the positive, we have to experience some negative as well. Otherwise, it just all blends together and nothing really means anything. It's not just all about happy, happy, happy. However, pick an emotion that you'd like to experience on the regular and start constructing some thoughts around it that support it. Because once you do that with your thoughts and you've got the feeling, you're going to nail it on the actions and the results because you're going to be so freaking charged up to take action. You're going to be so motivated to take action and to stick with it and to keep pushing through because you're having great thoughts about it. You're having a good feeling. It's creating. Now you're taking the action. It's going to get you to the results. I promise you, it's the game changer. It's not just doing more action. It's getting to the root of the thought and the feeling. So that's the model, my friends. And again, it's not something we created yet. It's a model that we use on ourselves, number one, and with our clients, both in our private coaching client and our group coaching. And it is a super simple and powerful way for you to change your results. So I want to thank you for spending time with us today and for allowing me to dive deep on a very simple model. You might be going, oh my gosh, he spent a lot of time talking about that. It's that important. It is truly a foundational piece of the puzzle and unlocking the code for you to achieve results in a way that you never have. So please feel free to put comments, ask questions, reach out to us. We're here to support you. We've created this podcast because we have so much information and tools that we want to share with you because our goal and our intention as a coaching company is to make an impact for people to live their best lives and to have the best experience in doing it. So please make a comment, ask questions. We'll do our best to answer them quickly. reach out to us. You can find us on Facebook. You can find the podcast, make comments, ask questions, and please like and share the podcast. If you like what you heard today, share it with somebody that you think it would make a difference in their life. And then come back and join us next week, where we are going to talk about more tools and resources and thoughts and ideas and ways for you to experience your best life. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you soon. Make it a great day. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, you must come check out the Mindset Architect Group Coaching Program. It's our monthly program where we explore the power of your mindset, help you identify what you truly want in business and life, and then help you reach those goals. Come check us out at rethinkcoaching.com/group-program. That's rethinkcoaching.com/group-program. We'll see you there.